Welcome back to the video, and this is what if Estonia forms an empire. So Estonia got tired. They've always been the one of the weak NATO members since Russia has Kaliningrad. They could annex Belarus, or they could go through Belarus and connect up with Kaliningrad, cutting them off from NATO. So what if Estonia got mad at that and decides to go imperial, trying to prevent that? So let's see what will happen. So the first thing they would do is try to present the idea to Latvia and Lithuania, and then Latvia accepts the ultimatum, but Lithuania doesn't, which makes them go into war. So with the two Baltic states going to war with just one, they would, them three are pretty weak, but since it's just a 2v1, they would go into Lithuania kind of bit with resistance, but not much. And then eventually Lithuania's capital has been caught, and then they surrender. So that was a very short battle. But let's see the peace deal. Okay, so this is the peace deal, and basically all of the Baltics unite into one. Now they think of going to Belarus, but that could bring Russia in. They could invade Finland, but at the same time they would just be pushed back. Sweden, same idea. And they could go over to Poland, but they're a little bit more powerful than the Baltics combined. Denmark. So with this in time, they declare war on Denmark, and with some Baltic ships going through Sweden, Poland, and Germany, they land near the Copenhagen Island. And then eventually they take over, they island hop to the mainland, and then eventually a few days later they surrender. Let's look at the peace treaty. So here we see Denmark being a puppet state of the Baltics, and now they decide to go to the Benelux region, and they decided to declare war on the Netherlands. And then with some troops landing right here and here, also over here in, I don't know what it's called, but they are landing near Amsterdam, and then taking it, trying to push these out, and then eventually they make one big front, and then eventually they push the Netherlands out. And they say, while we're here, we might as well declare war on Belgium and Luxembourg. And then that happens, and then they get invaded. Let's look at the peace treaty. So here we see Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg annexed into the Baltics, and we also see that they decided to make Denmark a part of their empire. So but there's just one problem. Germany and Poland are in the way, so I don't know how they could do this, but they sent an ultimatum to Poland asking for their coast. And of course they refuse, but they search for allies. And who did they see? They see Czechia, Slovakia, Austria, and Hungary. And might as well throw in Slovenia. So with these five, they decide to declare war on Poland. So some Baltic troops are going into Polish territory, taking them out from their coastal areas. And then surprisingly, they're more stronger than they expected. So then, they connect with their allies, and then soon they start pushing westward, making the Polish troops and Polish citizens retreating to Germany, which they happily accept them. But then, whenever they're getting closer to the German border, one accidentally invaded Germany, which brought Germany into the war. So, they're like, I mean, since we're here, we could already just go in. So, Germany starts to get invaded, and their allies, and from Denmark, and then from the Netherlands, Belgium, and then Luxembourg. And then eventually they're cut off from the waters. Berlin is captured. They get Bavaria. And then eventually they go into France. And then Germany surrenders. Let's look at the peace treaty. Okay, so here's the peace treaty. The Baltics get the majority of Poland and Germany, connecting with their exclaves. The Czech Republic, Slovakia united into Czechoslovakia with some Polish and German territories, while Austria, Hungary, and Slovenia united to an Austrian, Hungarian, Slovenian country. And then they also got some German territories. And now the Austrian, Hungarian, Slovenian country is no longer landlocked. But sadly, Czechoslovakia still is landlocked. But they will be importing some stuff either by the Baltics or through Slovenia. And then they could send an ultimatum over, but why would the Baltics accept splitting their country in two, or why would they accept splitting their country into two? I mean, they could, but at the same time, who knows? But the next thing, after a few years, they would just be resting, doing nothing, until Austria, Hungary, and Slovenia decide to invade France. So whenever that happened, the French troops are just marching in, and they call in their allies, which they do, and then which brings the Baltics and Czechoslovakia into the war. And then they try to get their coastal areas. And then eventually they get the northern part of France, making them have to go back and retreat. And then soon they start their own invasion. And then soon France asks for peace, which they both accept. And now let's look at the peace treaty. Okay, so here's the peace treaty. France was split into two, one with the old government and the top part. A little bit did go over to the Baltics, while the rest went to the Austrian, Slovenian, and Hungarian country. Oh, never mind. I guess Hungary and Slovenia left. So, with that happening, there's Austria's just alone. So with Hungary and Slovenia gone, they ask for Czechoslovakia to annex them, and which they do. Now, Czechoslovakia has access to the ocean, making them no longer landlocked. So that happened. I wonder what could happen next. I guess that could happen. I guess the Baltics declared war on Russia. So, they tried to go into Kaliningrad on all sides. It was hard at first, but then they managed to go in, taking it over. And then eventually, Russia storms in, taking Tallinn, eventually the rest of Estonia, and then, okay, there goes Latvia, and there goes Lithuania. Okay, so, I don't know what happened there. Oh, and, okay, I guess Kaliningrad got liberated, but Ukraine joins. Oh, and so does Moldova. Oh, Romania, Bulgaria, Hungary and Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kosovo, Montenegro. Almost everyone is against Russia. I wonder why. But with the new troops coming in, they started taking over Kaliningrad, and they start liberating the Baltics a little bit more faster than expected. Then eventually Latvia, and then Estonia. Next, they start any counter invasion, and then they ask Belarus if they could join, but they refuse. Decide not to become a puppet of Russia anymore, and then that was easy. Oh, okay. Oh, there goes St. Petersburg. And there goes Moscow. That was fast. Oh, and Russia surrenders. Let's look at the peace treaty. Okay, so here's the peace treaty. And the Baltics annexed a little bit of Russia. Ukraine got their old territories back, and the Baltics got compensation. So did Ukraine, so they didn't take as much land. But they do send an ultimatum over to Belarus saying that they could annex them, or they could fight for their annexation. And then Belarus decides to stop being a puppet of Russia, or stop being an ally of Russia, and decide to lean towards to the West, and they accepted the ultimatum. So now, Belarus is now Estonian. So, that was fast. So hopefully y'all liked the video, and I'll see you on the next one.